Todd, update us on the lawsuit, the latest in the lawsuit. A big late night move over the weekend, I guess, changed everything?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a lot of people went to bed thinking that the folks at Grace Community Church were going to be able to worship indoors and without their face masks. That was the ruling, by the way, of a local judge in California. But late Saturday night, the Los Angeles County Health Department filed an emergency appeal, and the Court of Appeals in California ruled in favor of the county. And in effect, just hours before the church services were supposed to happen, they told the pastor, John MacArthur, that they would not be allowed to hold any services indoors. Doing so would be a violation of the law.
And you call this late night thuggery, I understand. That's what you called it?
Yeah, it was late night thuggery, but here's the good news. Pastor John MacArthur and Grace Community Church did the right thing. They did what any red-blooded, freedom-loving American would do. They held a church service indoors. They did not social distance. They did not wear their masks. They engaged in their constitutional rights. And this is a big deal because in doing so, Pastor MacArthur and honestly, every person in that church house puts themselves at risk for being in contempt of the court. So we're going to see what happens here. But Pastor MacArthur made a very calculated decision that he was going to defy the government. But again, the pastor came out, and I thought this was a really important thing. When Pastor MacArthur came out to the pulpit on Sunday, the congregation rose to their feet in applause. But the pastor said something very interesting. He said they were doing this not as an act of rebellion, but out of an act of an obedience to God to gather together to worship.
What would you say is next now?
Well, this is a very serious court issue, and it's very clear to me that religious liberty is under attack in the state of California and, quite frankly, around the nation. But we need to pay really close attention to what happens here. There will be a court hearing coming up, but this is not the only case. There is a Calvary Chapel congregation in Ventura County. They're facing a similar situation as well. Is it possible that we could see pastors, American pastors, thrown in jail on American soil simply for preaching the gospel from their pulpits? Shockingly, the answer to that question is yes, it's a possibility. And I think that many of us who follow religious liberty have known that this day would probably come. I'm not quite sure that people thought it would come this quickly, though.
Yeah, I would say so. You expressed concerns about this very thing in your book, Culture Jihad. What was your warning for Americans and Christians then and now?
So the big issue here is complacency, and we have seen that. We've seen so many churches around the country announce that they're shutting their doors until the end of the year. We've had many well-respected ministers get up and say, you know what, we're going to obey the government and we're going to suspend our religious liberty in effect. And my biggest concern that I expressed in Culture Jihad is that people of faith do not take a stand. You know, religious liberty is our first freedom. It is our bedrock. It is the foundation of our country. And if you're able to eliminate that, then I think the whole thing falls apart, which is why it's so important for Christians especially to stand up, to rise up, and to fight back. And as we saw over the weekend in California, we've got Christians willing to fight back.
All right, Todd Starnes, thanks so much for keeping us up to date on this story.